So this is a neat topic. Feel your fitness is the topic, like I said. So this is probably, nutrition for exercise is probably one of my favorite things to talk about, and my favorite, probably something that I don't want to say I specialize in, but my favorite thing as a dietitian. So I was pretty excited to be able to talk with you all about this today. Nutrition plays a really big role in your fitness and you're exercising, if you're training for something, even your day-to-day exercise, it really plays a big role actually, like what you're eating before and after workouts and how it can really affect how you're performing. Especially if you're, like I said, training for something that ends up being, something kind of big like a marathon, it's really important. So we're going to be talking about, kind of the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot you can dive into with this topic, but we'll be talking about definitely the nutrition that you want to have before, during, sometimes you need nutrition during, not always, and then after. And then we're also going to be talking about micronutrients and some of the things about supplements, which is kind of interesting too. So I'll go ahead and start with the first part of our presentation, which is micronutrients. So a lot of times we think about the big three macronutrients, and that's your carbs, your fats, and your protein. Not to say those aren't important, but a lot of us get enough of that pretty easily. Micronutrients we tend to not always get enough of, so that's kind of why I wanted to make sure I discuss that, and it's really important for exercise. So first of all, what are micronutrients? Well, those are nutrients that our bodies need in smaller quantities, so that's going to be your vitamins and minerals, electrolytes. So why they're important is they play a role in a lot of different processes in your body, your immune health, metabolism, heart health even. But they're really important for exercise because when we're exercising, we're going to lose, we can lose some of those electrolytes and some of those micronutrients just through our sweat. Some people will lose more than others. It kind of just depends on you and your sweat rate and what kind of sweat composition you have. But that's one of the reasons why that's important. So the more we're active, it's a little bit more that we need those micronutrients. And then also just the fact that we're going through a lot of oxidative stress, so a lot of stress on our body when we're exercising. So even though it's good to exercise, obviously, we definitely have that recovery process, which is when we're growing. So during that recovery process, micronutrients or antioxidants, certain micronutrients are considered antioxidants, and those can help prevent the muscle from having more oxidative damage, and they help in the recovery process. So you might say, oh, am I getting enough micronutrients day to day? A lot of times if you're eating a balanced diet with all the good stuff, our fruits and veggies, whole grains, the things that they all tell you to eat, you're actually going to be just fine with getting the micronutrients. But sometimes if you have any kind of restriction or food allergy, you may need a supplement. And we'll talk a little bit more about when you might need a supplement, when that would be appropriate. But most of the time you're going to hear dietitians tell you, try to get it through your food. We're not big on taking vitamins. A lot of times I call it extensive urine because you're just going to excrete some of that out if you don't really actually need it. So, okay, so you'll probably see on your next few slides, those tables are pretty tiny. They should have bigger tables in that handout. So, but I'll explain anything anyway. So, vitamin D is the first one I want to touch on. Vitamin D is a good one because that is actually one I know I just explained we probably don't need supplementation. If you do need any kind of supplementation, it's probably going to be vitamin D. Our bodies naturally can make vitamin D when it's sunny and you have sun exposure, but for most of the time in where we live, obviously you're not getting sun exposure. And it's not, and even if it were to be really sunny, it's just too, like where we are in the globe, it's just not, you're not going to get enough vitamin D. So a lot of times people can be deficient in vitamin D. That's something to kind of get your levels checked if you think that's an issue, and you can always get a supplement. Why vitamin D is important is because it helps with bone and muscle function, so obviously that's going to be a big thing for exercise, but it also fights inflammation and is part of immune health as well, so it supports immune health. So those two things we know are all going to be very important for being able to stay active. So vitamin D is important, and that one, like I said, you get it from the sun, you don't get it from a lot of food. You'll see on there listed, you can get that in like with dairy products, egg yolks, salmon, but unless it's a fortified food, it's pretty hard to get vitamin D, so that one is okay to consider maybe needing a supplementation, especially through the winter months. And then antioxidants, so I mentioned antioxidants, so that's going to be your vitamins A, C, and E. Those are good because those are helping the recovery process, so helping to reduce the oxidative stress. And it's obviously going to help decrease that inflammation by helping reduce that oxidative stress. I have a couple of sources listed on there. There are so many more sources than what's on there, just obviously can't fit them all. But so, for instance, carrots are a good one for vitamin A. Anything orange, that beta carotene. So sweet potatoes, carrots are one that come to mind. A lot of those are good for vitamin A. And then vitamin C foods are going to be, your citrus fruits, but even things like veggies like peppers have a lot of vitamin C. So that's basically fruits and veggies are going to have your A and C. And then vitamin E, you're going to find more in like oils, things with fat. So nuts and seeds, oils, that kind of thing. So if you're eating a lot of plant-based food or a lot of fruits and veggies and nuts and seeds, you're probably going to easily be able to get the vitamin A, C, and E that you need. So that one I would say, or those three, I would say you probably don't need to supplement those usually. Iron is the next one I wanted to discuss. Iron is a possible one where some people may be deficient depending on if you eat animal products or not. So that's another one that you might think about needing a supplement if you feel like you may not be getting enough through your diet. But that's important for performance because it's helping us transport and utilize oxygen because it makes up your red blood cells. So obviously that's really important for exercise. We need enough oxygen when we're exercising. It's especially important for female athletes. So definitely making sure as a woman that they're getting enough iron. And basically the thing about iron, why I mentioned, if you say you're a vegetarian or something like that, or just maybe you don't eat a lot of meat, iron is more, there's an iron, it's called heme iron in animal products. So stuff like red meat has an iron called heme iron. So that is more available for our body. We can use that a little bit easier compared to if you get iron from something like broccoli or some greens. So that's why, that is the best source. So we do say, yeah, definitely try to eat red meat once a week or get some chicken in there because that's going to be a good source of iron that's most available for your body. If you don't eat meat, that's okay. You can still get it through veggies and basically like your greens, your beans, that kind of thing is a good source of iron. But you want to maybe think to pair it with a vitamin C food. So why is that? Is because the vitamin C food actually helps the absorption of the non-heme iron. So that's the iron that's going to be found in vegetable sources compared to meat sources. So if you're having, so a good thing to think about is if you're going to have spinach on your salad, maybe good to throw in some berries with some vitamin C or some oranges. Okay, so the next part there is about the electrolytes, sodium, potassium, magnesium. Those are our electrolytes. Those, again, are going to be important for, like, when you're sweating stuff out. It's good for hydration, your proper fluid balance. So that's, it's important because you may lose a lot through exercise. So I have some sources listed on there. We all know, it's very easy for us to get salt in our diet. You can use salt. You can just make sure you eat some cheese or bread. You're going to get plenty of salt. American diet, normally you get enough salt. So it's something that you probably don't have to supplement with. I do have a little note about if you're doing exercise that's lasting more than 2 hours, so say you're doing a half marathon or a marathon, or even just any kind of like prolonged tennis tournament or anything like that, yeah, maybe if you're sweating a lot, you may need some kind of electrolyte replacement, but normally it's not something that you need to really worry about on a day-to-day basis. I definitely have it in here because it's something to think about, but if you're just coming to a workout class or doing something that's under an hour, you likely won't be needing any kind of like salt replacement or anything. So just basically eating, like it says on there, eat kind of a balanced meal after, make sure you're getting enough potassium and salt in your diet overall, should be fine. And the last one on there is calcium. We all know calcium is good for our bones and for our bone health. So especially important if you're doing a lot of weight training or any kind of resistance exercise, jumping around, step class, that kind of stuff, that's going to be really important to have enough calcium. It helps, during an active lifestyle. So calcium, that one, dairy foods are a big one. Also, anything fortified, like a lot of cereals, sometimes orange juice is fortified, sardines, leafy greens, broccoli, those things all have calcium in them. All right, so we're going to go ahead and reshift to the fueling before, during, and after exercise, what examples look like of what to eat before, during, or after, and kind of just how that may fit for you. So first part is before. So this one, I'll say, all of this today is going to kind of just depend on the person and what your workout schedule is like. If you work out really early in the morning, you're not going to eat 3 to 4 hours before. That's just not going to make sense. So basically, if you're, maybe working out later in the afternoon, or if you're doing like noon or 5 p.m. workout, this 3 to 4 hours before is just gonna be probably what you have for breakfast or lunch. So it's just things to consider, okay, what might I eat that's gonna make me feel good to be ready to do my workout later. So that's going to be anywhere from 500, 600 calories probably at the most for your meal, depending on the person. I've got some things listed, like, what would that look like? Oatmeal with milk, or banana nuts, chicken sweet potato, that kind of stuff. What the big thing is there with all those examples is that you're pairing carbohydrates and you're pairing protein, because you kind of need both to get your muscles fueled up and ready to have the energy to use. So another good one that is good for pre-competition is actually just a peanut butter and jelly. I've done that a lot before, certain competitions I've done, and that is a good one because it's pretty easily digestible. It's okay to have some fiber in these meals because 3 to 4 hours is giving you enough time to digest, but you don't want tons of fat or fiber before because it's gonna take your body a while to digest that. So that's, with the peanut butter, or say you do any kind of nut butter, I would just say keep it to a tablespoon. That won't be too hard to digest, but if you have like a lot of fats, like I wouldn't eat maybe a big thing of avocado toast, maybe a little too much fat there, and it's gonna be hard to digest that. But, so basically, it's just a regular meal. Eggs, whole grain pita with turkey, like things that are just, again, gonna be your carb and your protein, kind of a regular, healthy, well-balanced meal quite a bit before your workout. Okay, so if we're, maybe working out at say 5 p.m. or just a time where it's been a while since we've had a meal, but we're saying, okay, we can't eat some big meal 2 hours before, but you feel a little bit hungry. About 2 hours before, it's okay to have, a small meal or snack. I mean, I'd suggest doing that, just so you have, something in your stomach, but not too much where you don't feel good, but just something in your stomach to have the energy to do your workout. So that's going to be something that's real easy to digest. Again, that could be toast with peanut butter. Again, just keep that peanut butter level a little bit less, maybe like a tablespoon, because this is when it starts to become important to not have too much fat because of, needing time to digest. So my favorite one would be more so having some kind of fruit or like probably just yogurt. That's probably the one I do the most. Having a Greek yogurt, it's perfect because it has carbs that are easily digestible. It obviously adds a little bit of sugar in yogurt. A lot of times most products have a little bit of sugar, but it's okay because we're gonna wanna use some of that to fuel our workout. And then a good thing about yogurt is it has some protein in there. So we've got both things that we need to be ready to fuel our workout. But I also have on there like, okay, what do you do if it's getting closer and it's less than an hour away? Keep those carbohydrates really simple. When it's less than an hour, definitely try not to have any fats or anything in there. More so simple carbohydrates rather than even just protein. A little bit of yogurt would still be fine. Doing fruit, and then I also mentioned smoothies. So why a smoothie or some kind of beverage would be good is because that's going to be absorbed quick and easily digestible before your workout. And then we also have mentioned if it's less than 30 minutes before. So this is more pertaining to if you're getting ready to do kind of a prolonged maybe race or something you're gonna need some energy. Most likely just drinking water before it's gonna be just fine for a day-to-day basis, but if you're getting ready to run a race or something, it's important to maybe like drink a little bit of Gatorade to kind of get a couple, get some simple carbs in there, or do something like a gel or a sports drink, or any kind of sports drink, a goo, something like that. So on a day-to-day basis, probably no need to make sure you're getting a nutrition 30 minutes before, but it's just something good to think about if you're doing something that's gonna be hours and you're really gonna need something right before. Okay, so something that I said is a little bit better to consider before exercise is hydration. So that's gonna be something that pertains to, everybody. You definitely need to make sure you're hydrating. So this can be tough if you have a really early workout, just because, there's only so much you could have drank before. So I just have fluid needs that are listed 2 to 4 hours before exercise, or just in general, even if you're getting up and you're going to the gym right away, just sipping throughout that ride over and getting ready to be hydrated for your workout. So basically, it just goes by your size. So say somebody is around 150 pounds, you can see on the little chart there they would need anywhere from 10 to 20 ounces. I think 10 is probably a little bit on the lower side, so I would say try to get closer to 20 probably, so probably closer to the higher amount that's on that chart. So basically, for instance, like my water bottle I use is about 20 ounces, so I'm making sure, maybe a couple hours before that I drink a full one of these. So just kind of taking some small sips, try not to gulp it all right before because it's be sloshy in your stomach and everything, but hydration is going to be really important, especially if it's a day that it's warm out, or if you just know you're gonna have a really long workout. I see you guys have spin bikes and stuff. I sweat a lot if I do spin class, so just knowing like if you're doing something that's really tough, long exercise, you're gonna sweat more, so just making sure you're accounting for that. Okay, so when to refuel during exercise. So this one I wanted to at least mention because sometimes it may pertain to you, but at the same time, we don't usually need to like eat during exercise or drink Gatorade during exercise on a day-to-day basis. If you're training for something and you're doing long exercises, or if you're doing, say, a half marathon, yeah, you definitely need to make sure you maybe have something during, because that's a really long time. But basically, if it's 60 minutes or less, don't need to worry about like eating or even drinking Gatorade or anything like that, unless it's maybe like a really hot day and you're really sweating a lot. But if we are doing something that's prolonged, 60 minutes or more, then we would want to have, basically you just want simple carbs. So around 45 minutes to an hour into that workout, you may consider trying to, drink like 8 ounces of Gatorade or something like that. I mean, even when someone does a race, they have the stations or the GU stations set up for that. So if it's longer than 4 hours, then we'd want to consume quite a bit of carb every hour. So it says anywhere from 60 to 90, because you're really using a lot of fuel for, something like a marathon that can be longer than 4 hours. So, and those are going to be basically all, like I said, it's all going to be easily digestible things. So really simple carbohydrates, GUs, gels, even sometimes I have on there energy bars, but at the same time, even that's a little bit hard to chew. I would think if you're doing maybe a cycling race where you can kind of chew while you're cycling, that's fine. But I know when I was doing certain running races, it's got to be something really simple, mostly something you can drink. Say you're doing like a tournament and you have some time, like say it's, I don't know, like I'm thinking of kids back in the day doing soccer tournaments or something. It's fine to maybe do something like oranges or bananas, like if you're not actually moving at that time. Fruit can be okay, or dried fruit's good too. Basically, we're just wanting to avoid any kind of fats or proteins, because you need all your energy you can get, and a fat and protein is going to make your stomach have to work a little bit harder, and it's going to take away that energy from you, but also not make you feel so good. So just basically your carbs, your water, and electrolytes are going to be the things we need during prolonged exercise hydration during exercise. The graph kind of tells you go by pounds lost, which, hey, in a perfect world, it'd be great to know how much we've really lost during our race or whatever we're doing that's prolonged, but we're not going to probably know the weight that we need or how many pounds were lost. I would say people definitely lose anywhere from 1 pound to 2 pounds, depending if you're male or female and your size. So basically, you're going to need anywhere from 16 to 32 ounces during your workout. And this honestly includes even if you're just doing a day-to-day workout. It doesn't even just mean if you're doing something really long. You definitely need to be drinking water during. So I would just say the general rule is to do about 8 ounces every 15 to 30 minutes. If you can just, basically, I keep my water with me and I'll try to take like 2 sips, which I've heard that one big sip ends up being about an ounce. So if you can just, every 15 minutes, 10 minutes, just be taking a few sips, you'll probably be okay. And we'll talk about what you want to do after. But just staying hydrated during exercise is important. Again, on these like hot days, if you're ever outside doing something active, or even if you're just like working on lawn care and being active outside in a hot day, you definitely want to be drinking water. Okay. And then again, that's the next slide just kind of goes over just remembering about electrolytes and why they're important. They're regulating our blood pressure, and they're helping with our nerves and muscle tissue. Obviously, that's really important because that's what's going on during exercise. So again, electrolytes can definitely be really important, because if you have any kind of deficiency during, that's when people start to see the muscle weakness, they have cramps or fatigue or dizzy. You see those people that are falling down when they're doing those races and stuff. A lot of that is electrolyte imbalance. So, you can maybe be hydrated and drinking enough water, but if you don't have electrolytes, you can be dehydrated of electrolytes. So you actually want to make sure you're replenishing that if we're extending, our workouts. So what electrolytes would be, your general sports drinks, like your Gatorade, your Powerade, you could get through that. But they also have a lot of different products now that, because people don't want all those added sugar sometimes in that, so you can just get it through coconut water and I think today actually we have some samples from a beverage that is a local company makes, and they contain electrolytes. So there's a lot of things you can get like online nowadays. You can do tabs, powders, any of that. So if you're getting ready to do any kind of long extended exercise, it is important to kind of make sure you're getting enough of that. And something I do want to mention too, like I said, everyone's different. So some people are considered salty sweaters. So if you ever see, say you're wearing a black t-shirt or something and you notice there's like a lot of like white grime on your shirt, that means you've had a lot of, like, you have some sodium coming out. So not everyone is a salty sweater, or unfortunately if you can taste your, it's kind of gross, but if you taste your sweat accidentally or something, you can tell if you have a lot of people, you can tell if you're a salty sweater or not. Those people are going to be losing a little bit more, so just, you're going to be maybe one of those people that may need to take something. Okay, so moving on to the after part, which is probably the most important part is the after part. And before is important too. So we'll say before and after on a daily basis would be important. So anywhere, you've probably heard this, this magic window of making sure you eat 30 minutes to 2 hours after. There is something to be said about that. Certainly, if you can do that, that's really great. Anyone who's exercising for more than an hour, it's going to be really crucial for them. If you're doing something that is less than an hour, or if it's not as intense for the day, it's probably not going to be as beneficial for you, and you can certainly still, just eat a regular meal after as soon as you can, but it's not as crucial. But if you're training for something and it's been a long, or it's just really an intense session, like, again, the spin class, I did a spin class not long ago, that's why I'm thinking of this, but it can be really tough, it's really hard on you, so it is good to refuel, and I'm sure the classes you guys have here, they look, from what I saw on the website, they look intense, so it actually might be pretty important for you to make sure you're refueling. So it might not be a bad idea to pack a snack, which we'll talk about what that might look like. I know when I go to the gym, I always pack something to eat kind of just on my way home, because it can take a while after you shower and make dinner, it can take a while. So it's good to actually kind of be prepared and making sure you're refueling. Okay, so eating after exercise, what does that look like? Carbs and protein, again, so you're gonna want carbs and protein before, and you're gonna want them after. Why that is because, so simple carbohydrates, we just exercise, right? So we have these things called glycogen stores in our muscles, and that's where our energy is coming from to be able to exercise. That gets depleted during exercise, so we need to be able to replenish them. So we need carbs, but we also need the protein to help replenish the muscle as well. So some quickly absorbed carbohydrates is what we're gonna want there. So as you'll see, there's kind of, a lot of people are afraid of carbs nowadays, but they are helpful for your energy levels. So I always tell people, if you want to, eat your carbs around your workout then. So if you have anything that you feel like, I don't want to usually overdo my crackers and cheese, well, maybe eat it around your workout, because it'll help you, like right afterwards, it will actually help you refuel. So you'll see on there the examples of some carbs to be, fruit, pasta, crackers, oatmeal. Some of those things are, if you're like making a meal, obviously, you're not just gonna eat pasta on your way home, but if you're having a meal, maybe considering those foods to incorporate. And then basically how to know how many carbs you need. It says on there 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram. Most of us don't really measure ourselves in kilograms, but fortunately nutrition always uses kilograms, so it's a little confusing. Basically kilograms are just close to half your body weight in pounds. But what you need to worry about is anywhere from 25 to 50 grams of carbs is usually what that's going to end up being. I'd say for women it's probably going to be more around 30, they're usually smaller people. Men maybe around 40, 50 at the most. You don't want to overdo it. That's the thing with all this is we need to refuel properly, but it's not a license to go eat a lot of candy after or anything like that. So you just eat a little bit, and then you want some kind of protein with it as well. So again, protein is helping replenish those carbs and getting them back into the muscle. So that one, that could be, a lot of times people will do a protein shake after. They'll use protein powder, which we'll talk about. That's a great one. Doing milk or chocolate milk, or say you're able to cook dinner pretty soon after, you're having some kind of meat in there. Just making sure you're getting at least, again, that one's anywhere from 25 to 50 grams. Usually protein you can get away with needing a little bit of less. It's more the carbs you need. So a lot of times we say that there's a 3-to-1 ratio of carbs and protein. So you actually need a little bit more carb than protein. Protein's still important. So yogurt's actually a good one for that too. Greek yogurt, it's got carbs and protein. So some of those pre-workout snacks are actually going to work for you after. So you'll see on the little graph there's, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. What does that look like? So if it's breakfast time, so maybe you do an early morning workout. So for breakfast, I would, have something with a protein shake in there, put some fruit in there, have some protein powder. Maybe you have an omelet with some veggies and some toast there. We've got your protein and your carb there. And then oatmeal would be a really good one with some milk and some banana. That's going to have both sources of protein and carb. Other examples, like say it's lunch or dinner, things like just a turkey sandwich, turkey wrap, chicken and rice, just basic like good whole well-rounded meals. And then for the snacks, so this one, like I said, a lot of times it's going to be hard to maybe, just if you're on the go, you don't have time to make a full meal. I like the example of like fruit and nut butter. It doesn't have to be nut butter, it can also just be nuts. My go-to is little packs. I'll do little things of dates, which are just a little dried fruit, and then some kind of nuts. Because the nuts are giving me my protein, and then the date is giving me some really fast digestible carbs. I also love to do peanut butter and banana, or so any kind of yogurt and berries. Chocolate milk's a good one. I know a lot of us maybe shy away from drinking sugary beverages, which you should normally, but if you're gonna have chocolate milk or want a good recovery drink, chocolate milk is a really good one because of having a good amount of the carb to protein ratio. So, and then I think I also had on there hummus and pretzels too. So again, anything with like simple, fast digesting carbs, and then some protein. Okay. So after exercise hydration, obviously very important there. If you're able to weigh yourself before and after, which I think a lot of gyms have scales, or if you can just check at home or something, that's going to be important. Probably not something you need to do every time, but if you know in general, I lose a pound when I do this class. I mean, yeah, day to day is going to change, but even if you can check sometimes to know how much you have lost, that's what you want to make sure you're replenishing. So if you don't weigh yourself, that's okay. Just know that you're probably losing, I mean, definitely most people are losing a pound to 2 pounds, especially if you're sweating a lot, but also consider the fact that you're losing water just through, like, even when I'm speaking now, just through respiration, and if you're breathing really hard, you're losing some fluid that way. So basically, and it's going to depend on how big you are of a person, how much you're sweating. So those numbers are wide ranges, but definitely at least like something about this size. If I work out, I try to drink, this is about 20 ounces, so I try to drink at least this after, anywhere from 22 to 44 for sure. Probably men maybe up to the 30, 44 range. So again, just going to depend on your size, but definitely making sure you're drinking enough after. And consider the fact that you can get some fluid through your food as well. So if you're having a smoothie or a lot of fruit or yogurt, that's giving you some fluid too. But plain water is definitely important to make sure you're getting enough of. Okay, so the electrolytes after exercise are also important because, again, like I said, if you know you're a salty sweater, you may need some electrolytes. And a lot of times, though, we don't need to worry about like replenishing them with anything just but regular food, or some of, maybe a coconut water or something like that. Something interesting to note is sodium is lost at a higher rate, but we get a lot of sodium in our diet normally. Most Americans meet that requirement, exceed it actually. So that's not something that, if you're just eating a regular diet and if you're worried about it, salt your food, that's fine. I usually don't say to salt your food, but if you feel like you're losing a lot, just even salting your food will be fine. Or eating, sometimes I'll just eat some nuts with that bath salt on them if I feel like I sweat a lot or something. But most of the time, that won't be an issue. Again, the only time it might be an issue is if you're out and really sweating a ton for hours, out doing a marathon or something like that. Potassium and calcium are electrolytes that are lost in lower concentrations. However, we don't always get enough of those in our diet. So something to consider is making sure you are getting those sources and eating enough. So like I mentioned earlier, potassium are going to be things like a sweet potato or a banana, citrus fruits. Yogurt's a good source. Calcium is going to be mostly found in your dairy foods, but also your leafy greens. So just making sure you're thinking about getting enough of those and maybe incorporating those foods in your dinner after you work out. Okay, so the last main topic we're going to talk about is supplements. So I get a lot of questions just on a almost daily basis, just from clients about supplements. I think supplements companies do a really good job of marketing things and making them look like they're going to be a cure-all, but like I said about us dietitians, a lot of us will try to get it through your food if possible, because what's nice about your food is your food can give you like a lot of different things, right? You can have an apple and that has fiber and that has vitamins and minerals in it, but if you just take an individual supplement, it just has whatever that is you're taking. So we want to be eating a well-rounded diet, and a lot of times, there's people that do find that supplements are helpful for them. That's fine. Sometimes It may just be an expensive way to get something, but it can be helpful. It's a case-by-case basis. But the only thing you want to consider are a couple different things. One thing is that there's a kind of a lack of evidence for a lot of supplements, not all, but for a lot of things, there's just not a whole lot that tells us, yes, this is very beneficial, spend your money on it. So that's why we say a lot of times, if you can get it through your food, then that's probably the best thing. Especially if you're just, a regular person. If you're I don't know, NBA star or like a CrossFit athlete that's competing all the time, you just may have such high needs that you do need a supplement. That's fine. But on a day-to-day basis, I can tell you right now, I don't really take supplements, so it's not maybe needed too much. If you are taking them, just consider the fact that they're not well regulated. So the FDA is not really good about checking them for safety or purity or anything. A lot of times, you can just buy them over the counter, so you have to be careful with them. So look for, there's a third-party certification called USP and NSF. So those are third parties, so that's not the supplement company themselves, but it's a company that the supplements can be checked through, and then those third parties can check them for the quality, the purity, if they're banned substance, because you got to be careful too. For some reason you have to take, like say you're competing in something, you have to take a drug test. There's people that, they didn't even know they had a banned substance. That's mostly for people on the professional level, but still, if you were to win a local race or something, you could definitely be drug tested. So just kind of looking for those labels are helpful. And then also I had a couple websites listed on there, Office of Dietary Supplements, Medline Plus for urgent supplements. You can always find a little bit more information about there. So definitely try to dig around if you are taking supplements. And then I did have the disclaimer of talk to a healthcare person. Doctor, pharmacist, they're going to be the ones that probably know the most, hopefully, about the supplements. Just want to make sure that you can easily get a supplement over the counter, but you want to make sure that you're not it's not interacting with any of your medications or another supplement. Something that I've learned in school real fast was just we got this book of just supplement interactions, and I never realized you can just get supplements over the counter. You don't worry too much about them, but they can really interact with a lot of different very common medications, especially things like blood pressure medication or heart medications. So you do want to make sure before taking something, talk to your doctor about it, let them know you're on it, making sure it's not going to be a problem. Okay, so there are a few supplements that I wanted to talk about that possibly can be beneficial for, any even regular day-to-day athletes, especially somebody who's maybe training for something. So that's that next chart there. So BCAAs, which maybe you guys have heard of that one, that's pretty common. That stands for branched chain amino acids. So what that is amino acids make up protein. So these are just a special amino acids called branched chain. Why that might be helpful, so people might take that before, during, or after their workout. It's helpful because it can kind of help you in just like decreasing your fatigue and aiding in your recovery, and it's stimulating your muscle protein synthesis. So that one can be helpful. A lot of times there's not like hard evidence that from what I've read that it's you for sure should take it, spend the money on it, but it's up to 20 grams per day is considered safe, and it could be helpful. So I would say that if you want to try that one and you feel a difference, there's people that tell me they feel a difference with it, that's maybe something to try. Caffeine. So caffeine's one that we all know, say you're drinking some coffee and have to get your caffeine through there. So why that helps you is because it's a stimulant. So it can help you with endurance races or just whatever, endurance sports. And it helps kind of delay your fatigue, keeps you alert and all that. Something to note about caffeine is you want to make sure, you're not going too much, because that can get you really jittery or make you not feel good, GI distress. So anywhere from 400 to 500 milligrams of caffeine a day, we want to say, or even in one dosage, you don't want to go over that. So a cup of coffee can depend, but that can have anywhere from like around 150 milligrams, I think. I know some of the Starbucks roasts have like the blonde roast. I just read it the other day. They have a lot more than that. So just be considerate of maybe, try to look up your coffee and how much it has, but something to note for that one. So say you have something special coming up and you really want to be able to perform and use the caffeine to your benefit. When I did like a half marathon, I kind of tried to consider this. Stop taking caffeine if you can for a while, like before that special event. So if you can, a few weeks before. Why that is because if you're always drinking coffee or taking, not using caffeine, but consuming caffeine on a regular basis, it's kind of just going to become more baseline for you. But if you're able to step back from it, you'll feel more of an effect if it's been a few weeks that you've had it, so it should help you a little bit more. Another thing to note, especially about anything that you're doing, you know, if you're gonna have a race or anything special coming up, do it in training too. So don't never ever have taken caffeine and then all of a sudden take it for training, or sorry, for your special, you know, event that day, because it can cause some GI distress. Any supplement really, you just want to be careful and make sure you tolerate it okay. So always take it in practice as well through the times that you're training. And then I do have on there creatine. That's probably not something that's common for our population here. I know I certainly don't take it. It can help in the strength world, like if somebody's trying to build a lot of muscle mass, or power athletes, if you want that power output, it's probably not needed at all for like an endurance person. It's going to pull a lot of fluid in, so you do have some muscle, like it pulls in fluid in your muscles, so you have some gain. And so it's important to, you know, again, for power events, but you're gonna gain some weight, which most people don't want to gain weight, so they don't always like that effect of it. But creatine has been shown that it's fine if it's up to 3 to 5 grams. It's still a little controversial though, you know, it can be linked to people having kidney issues down the road, so not something that I would suggest a regular person do. If you're a strength athlete, oh, it says low battery. I'm almost done. I'll just try to speak loud. If you're a strength athlete, then maybe it's, oh my gosh. Uh-oh. I've got too much hair for this. I'm almost done. I'll try to speak loud. Anyway, so it's probably not needed in a day-to-day. All right, and then the last kind of topic I want to talk about is protein. So one that I would suggest would be okay, something that, I guess I said I don't take supplements, but I guess if we consider like something like whey protein, I do take that sometimes. So a lot of times, if you're an active individual, or if you're someone who's even trying to lose weight, we do suggest like maybe doing a lower carb, higher protein type diet. So it can be hard to get enough just plain protein. So that's why supplements, you know, like when I say supplements, I mean like the powdered form, can actually be beneficial, and there's really no harm in trying to take a protein supplement. Just realize that, you know, take the recommended amount, like a scoop. You don't need much more than that. It's not going to help you to take a huge amount. So that actually can be one that's good, because that's going to help increase the muscle protein synthesis, which is making sure we're replenishing our muscles after and helping in size and strength. I have a couple different, there's so many proteins out there. So a couple different listed, whey, pea, hemp, chia, oh my gosh, we have collagen now, even pumpkin seed protein. I mean, there's so many different kinds out there. It's just gonna be kind of depending on what you like for your taste, and if you are a vegetarian athlete, you may obviously, or a vegan athlete, you probably don't, you're not gonna want whey and that kind of thing. So the next graph kind of talks about the absorption rate. So whey protein, I'd say, is a good one. If you tolerate milk products okay, and you are fine with doing dairy, that's a good one, because it's a fast absorption rate, and it's also going to be kind of one of your best in stimulating that muscle protein synthesis. So that's a really good one for just post-workout. Having whey is probably what I would do, and is what I do. Casein. So if you've ever heard of casein, and you might say, well, which one's better? You know, I've had that question before. A lot of times, so casein is just used, it's a slower absorption rate. So if you are going to be fasting for a while, or if you're going to bed and you don't want to, like if you're trying to maybe make some gains and maybe gain muscle strength and almost gain weight with your muscle, casein is a good one. So a lot of athletes who are trying to gain weight will actually do casein before bed, because that'll help, like you break down during, like when you're sleeping, your muscles actually break down. It's in a catabolic state, so the breakdown state. So that way it'll help. Before going to bed, it'll help prevent too much breakdown. So that's when casein would be helpful. I do have on there listed some other like non-milk sources. So soy is another good one if you're a vegan, or if you don't want the dairy, that'd be fine. It is a fast absorption rate. Rice protein would be an intermediate absorption rate. That one is just, it's probably not maybe as great as the quality. You just need a little bit of a higher dose. I actually prefer, if I'm gonna do like a plant-based one, is actually pea protein. That's a good one, and that's in a lot of there's so many different companies that do just the vegan protein powder, and even if you're not vegan, I mean, it's a good one, and kind of just, all of this is gonna depend on what, like your tastes are. You know, certain ones can taste chalky, so you just have to kind of test them out and see what you like, what you tolerated, and what tasted good to you.
Okay, so last little section just is a little note about if you are a vegetarian or vegan athlete, or even if you're maybe someone that just doesn't consume a lot of meat or traditional animal products foods. So there's not a ton of studies about vegetarian athletes, so that's something that's a little challenging. But basically, there's been reviews and there's no difference in performance outcomes if you are a vegetarian. So I think sometimes people think, oh, I could never be a vegetarian, like it wouldn't be okay for me to, for my workouts or anything. It's fine. You can certainly still get all the nutrients you need. You may need supplements, but it's just, you're still going to be okay. There's actually one study that had noted on there that there was improved aerobic capacity with vegetarian athletes. So there's maybe some people feel great when they do it. Protein needs, you definitely want to make sure, I have on there listed, about 1 to 2 grams per kilogram. Again, for body weight, that'd be like almost a pound. So if you're a 120-pound person, you may need about close to maybe like 100 to 120 pounds or 120 grams of protein a day. That's just, this is all very individual, so you can always ask a dietitian, what are my protein needs? Micronutrients to consider though for vegetarian athletes. I mentioned the iron, so that's one that we're going to get the best sources through our meat. So it is a little bit harder to make sure you're getting enough iron when you're a vegetarian or vegan. So that's something that if you are, if you're not supplementing, just making sure that you're eating lots of broccoli and greens, but then also eating that vitamin C food, so such as citrus fruits or something like that, to make sure you're helping with the absorption. And then another thing is if you're a runner, there's something called a heel strike. Or even if you're doing any kind of pounding, a lot of jumping around, and the blood cells actually get damaged during that process, so it kind of increases your need for needing iron. So if you are a vegetarian who also runs, which that's a common, and there's a lot of runners who are, you definitely might need to take a supplement in that case. So I have on there, vitamin D, B12, and zinc. That's the reason you may need supplements for those, is just because your best sources are actually coming from animal products. So in that case, supplements may be needed. So all of this is very on an individual basis. So, okay, that was actually all. I feel like I talked kind of fast. That's just kind of my personality, go a little fast. So next here, I obviously welcome any questions. If anyone has a question, we also have these little electrolyte drinks. Get one of these to sample if you have a question. Yes?
Can you tell us about diet drinks?
The diet drinks? Yes, that's a good question. I recommend try to stay away from that. If you can find the ones that have the natural sweeteners like stevia, which some of them do now, better choice probably, just because that's coming from the stevia comes from a plant, so I'm a little bit not as nervous about that. But there's just a lot of like mixed information that I don't feel comfortable saying like, yeah, definitely drink diet soda, like that sweetener is fine to have. There's studies that show it's fine, there's studies that show it doesn't, depending on who's funding it basically. But I would say the thing about always drinking something sweet is it kind of just makes you, it just dulls everything down. Like fruit doesn't taste as sweet to you because you're always drinking something sweet, and it makes you almost crave sweet things more. So a lot of times my clients that stop drinking diet pop or any kind of, diet drink, or including like any kind of sugary drink, they are like, wow, everything tastes so much like better, sweeter and everything. So even, worrying about the chemicals aside, cutting that kind of stuff out makes other foods more appealing to you. So I would say to try to limit that and treat it as a treat. Like if you're gonna maybe go out to dinner once a week and you like that diet soda with the meal, okay. But I would say maybe just don't buy it and drink it all the time. That's a good one, huh? You get to try your beverage. Almost forgot. Yeah, if you guys have like general nutrition questions, that's fine too. I realize that. Yes.
When you're talking about eating yogurt,
Yeah.
you were just wondering sugar-free?
Yeah, so yogurt, and when I say yogurt, I should have kind of emphasized too, those like little cups are a good size. I would say just get the, do you guys like Greek yogurt? Yes, that's what I like too. And that's a good one because of protein. I look for the Oikos 000 has the stevia in it so that it doesn't have, so you're going to have a little bit of sugar in your yogurt because there's lactose in milk, and that's just a natural sugar. So you're always going to see a little bit. which is fine. But if you can find the ones that are either that one, or if you get the plain Greek yogurt that you can just like sweeten yourself with like a touch of honey, that's better. Or just like get a lower sugar kind though, I guess is my answer. The Chobani makes a lower sugar. Try to keep it under 10 grams, if that's a good way to like, yeah, because there are some yogurts that have like 24 grams. I think like the Yoplait Originals, and I'm like, that's crazy. So looking at the ingredients can help too, because sometimes it's hard to tell how much added. So the higher up on that ingredients list, that means that's more, they have to list it by weight, so that means there's more sugar. So if sugar is the second ingredient, that means there's a lot of sugar in there. So my recommendations are that 000, or sweeten it yourself, buy the plain, or do the Chobani less sugar. It'll say like % less sugar, and that one's not bad, that's fine. So
It says sugar is E1s too, but
yeah, that can even be in there.
right, so it's
Crazy.
3 grams or?
So look at the ingredients list for nut butter. Well, you want to stay for a nut butter. If it's more than like 2 or 3, they put sugar in it. So because there's like 1 gram of sugar naturally in peanut butter. So if you look at the food label, it should literally say peanuts and salt. It should be 2 things. So and then you can buy the ones that are just ground up at the grocery store. That's probably going to be your best bet. But if it's just look at the ingredients. If it has the sugar in it, or God forbid corn syrup in it, like even more stuff. No go. No, try to just buy those natural, like I do the Smucker's Original. It's literally just, it's like the oily stuff. It's like crushed up. So, yeah. But that's a good question too. But to also go off of that, like it's okay to have maybe a little, I'm not worried about a little bit of sugar in something before your workout, because you're using that, you're fueling it. So that's why I was kind of saying, when you have maybe some of those more sugary foods that are not, like the chocolate milk or something, you're using that for your workout or to refuel. So not this, like again, you don't like eat a candy bar or anything, but a little bit is fine. So you're using it. But that's a good question. Yeah. Oh yeah, good question. Yeah. So have you seen those shaker bottles?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can do that. I feel like it's kinky. I would just say I use a magic bullet, or I'll use a blender. And yeah, so you can do water. I would say at least do some kind of milk. I like almond milk. So just something besides just water, because it's like really, I've done just water. It's gross. So so if you're gonna do it in coffee, maybe try the collagen. So collagen's really good in coffee because it's hot, and then the collagen doesn't like get all icky because you want it in hot beverages, and that doesn't have a flavor to it. So if it's not flavored, sure you can put it in coffee. But if it's flavored, I would just make a little smoothie out of it, or just blend it up with almond milk, or even just a little bit of regular milk is fine. Yeah, that's a good question though. But yeah, the question, in case you guys didn't hear, is how would we use protein powder? So yes. Yeah. I would say just for digestion purposes, if you can try to stop 2-3 hours before bed, that's good. Just for your digestion. If you're hungry, let's say you had early dinner, 5 o'clock, like if you go to bed at 12 or something, or maybe 10 or 11, you may need something small. So try to keep it small, and try to like avoid having easy like grabby snacks like pretzels or chips. If you can, I mean it's easy in a perfect world to say like we'd stay away from that. So try to stay away from that kind of stuff. So something like having apple and peanut butter, something that's going to be kind of keep you full with some fiber. Try to keep that maybe that carb limit to like 15 grams, and I'm not too worried about it there. Yeah. I would say like popcorn, if you kept it to like 3 cups of popcorn is around 15 grams. So if you kept it maybe a little portion, keep the portions down maybe. That's what I'd recommend. That's good that he doesn't add anything to it. But I would say like if you're, it depends on what your goals are too. Like if you're trying to actively lose weight, really consider that next week. Like think, do I really need food? I think it's a lot of times a ritual for us, and maybe trying to find a new ritual, like having tea before bed, or maybe just like, I don't know, just trying to keep out of the kitchen setting up. Clothes, like I'm done. I'm not having, I've told a lot of people over the years, like, let's get rid of that habit, and you'll find that maybe you don't have it. So ask yourself if you're hungry first, and this is all in a perfect world. I mean, I understand that's hard. but like my boyfriend had them out and I had some. Like sometimes it's hard, it's because your partner or something has something and you're like, so it can be a little tough, but yeah, just maybe keep the portion down, we'll say that. Creamer and protein, I think those are pretty good. I think I've looked them up before. Do you do it after or before? I'd say that's good because that's already kind of that. I think that's just fine. Yeah, because it's just pre-made. You know, you can make your own. Yeah, I didn't mention that, but you could do one of those muscle milks or premium proteins. Just check that there's not tons of sugar. And I forgot to say this about the supplements too. Check those not just supplements. I'm sorry, protein powder supplements. Check that label. Sometimes they put sugar in them, or they put a bunch of crud in there, like added like sweeteners and stuff. I get one from Whole Foods 365, and it's just because this is out by me in Akron, but it is just their own 365 brand, and they put a little stevia in it to sweeten it, but they don't put in like sucralose or any of the other sweeteners that I'd rather stay away from. So I like that one. But just check your ingredients. You really shouldn't have like 20 million ingredients, and some of them do. So check the ingredients on the supplements. The one. Oh, I like it too. Is it just like the flavor?
Yeah.
I think that it's fine, but nutritionally it's okay. I've just heard from dentists and like, you know, dental professionals, it can kind of wear on your enamel of your teeth. So just be careful with like maybe, you know, maybe some straw or just all day long of that is going to be hard on your enamel. So just, I don't know, it's something to maybe talk with a dentist about a little bit to make sure your enamel's okay. Like if you go to dentist, just tell them about it. But nutritionally it's fine. I mean, it's hydrating. Again, I mentioned that, but carbonated water is electrolytes. I mean, that really took off this past few years. I feel like I've gotten into them, so I'll have to, it's like a nice treat. So, yeah, those are fine. They're especially if you try to get them unsweetened, obviously. So, those are good. Yeah.
Is there really like any difference between
So no, it's good to get in veggies however you can. I would just say I think sometimes cooked can be good because they're just a little more well tolerated. So some people will find that they get a little bloating or it's hard to tolerate certain veggies that aren't cooked, but if you cook them, it kind of just helps break it down a little bit for you. So if there's, go ahead. I'd say it's good to just eat whatever. Yeah, you're gonna. It's just when you're having a raw, your body might have to just do a little bit more to break it down because the cooking process helps break it down. So, but no, they're both healthy. Both. Please eat vegetables. Yes.
And is there any benefit to taking vitamin D daily as opposed to just taking it once a week?
Oh, okay.
Like if you
I don't
forget to
think-
take it and you just like take it all at one time.
That's a good question. I don't want to go quote me on that, but I don't see why that's it. Like, I think I don't think that would be. I think it'd be fine. Yeah. I mean, probably just I would just say like follow what the supplement tells you. You know, whatever dosage it recommends, just try to follow it. But I don't think it'd be a problem. Good question. Yes.
When it comes to refueling during your workout,
Yes.
so say you come and like lift weights for 45 minutes and then do like a half hour of cardio, so you're
Oh,
over
yeah.
that 60-minute threshold, would you recommend eating during that workout or just kind of make sure you eat?
Yeah, okay, that's a really good, because you're right, some workouts do take a little bit while. I'd say like, if you feel like, oh, I'm starting to feel a little bit weak, it's okay to maybe drink a little bit of an electrolyte beverage, a little Gatorade or something. I don't think you need to physically eat, like you definitely don't. Unless it's like a longer session, you're at the gym, like say you're also it's just taking a while, because like I know sometimes gym stuff can become a little social, at least for me. So like if it's also just because you're taking a little while and things take long between sets, I wouldn't worry about like making sure you pack food. But if you feel like I'm a little bit tired, I feel like I could use something, then in that case maybe a little bit of Gatorade or something. We just want to get away from, I think, unfortunately our culture, like we're always like feeding, like especially kids, like oh they eat all this Gatorade and all this stuff. It's just like it's more sugar. So like really, if you can just get away, if you feel fine, I would say you probably don't. I mean, just make sure. In that case, pack a snack after though, because you've worked out for a while. I would say don't wait until you get home to like eat dinner or something. Like have a snack on the way home.
Okay.
That's a good thought. Yeah. Very good questions, everyone.
So this is a popular high metabolism diet, a 28-day high metabolism diet.
Okay.
That has the second phase is kind of like sort of keto base where it's a lot of proteins and less carbs. And I was wondering if you had any comments on that.
Yeah, I get that question a lot. Is it complete keto or in ketosis and you're now using ketones as your fuel? Or is it?
during that phase of the
Yeah,
week, yes.
so you're like using a whole different fuel level, so you're not using carbs to, so it can be okay for endurance athletes from what I've read, because endurance athletes you can use like your fat reserves and you use that fuel, but I think if you're a strength athlete or you're trying to put a lot of power output out, I feel like it'd be challenging. I think that you hear a lot of athletes say that was tough for them to do because you're getting your quick energy from your muscle glycogen, and if you don't have any muscle glycogen because you're doing that kind of diet, it's going to be hard. So I would never recommend it. But if someone wants to try that out and if it worked for them, awesome. But I think it depends what kind of athlete you are. But for a regular person, I would say just eat well-rounded. But I don't know. So it's something to try. But yeah, keto is a big topic right now. Again, with keto, it can be helpful for endurance athletes because they can use that fuel okay, but it's hard for power athletes, is from what I've all read, and I've never done it myself, so not sure about how that would feel. So, thank you guys for the good questions. Anything else?
You get a lot of questions about fasting diets.
I get a lot of questions about any kind of fat diet. I actually think intermittent fasting, correct. I do get a lot of questions about that one too. Yes, and you know what? It's like I let people kind of try their thing out. If it works for you, great. Try it, that's fine. But I don't know. It just depends on how. Some people are like, I'm not hungry in the morning, so it's not hard for them to not eat. So I think too, if you can keep your fasting window, like sometimes people will just eat in like a 4-hour window. I find that I don't see clients losing weight like that. I never have had a client lose weight by doing that. But I've had people do okay if they keep that 8-hour, because that's doable. Eating within that 8-hour window, even a 10-hour window. If there is something to be said about giving your gut some long rest to like let it digest and everything. So I think as long as your window's not crazy, where you're like just only eating for 4 hours a day, I've seen some people be okay with that. But yeah, I get a lot of stuff about that, about keto. What I wanted to say is I believe that Kayla, the next dietitian, you're okay with that, okay. She will be talking about, I think her topic is fad diets. I think that's what people are interested in, so I think that's her topic. So she can hopefully speak to more of that. I think that's always interesting, and there's always something new to learn. So us dietitians really have to stay up on it, because I get, just like the diet you asked me about, or not diet, but I've actually never heard of that one, and I literally read nutrition articles daily. So there's always something to learn and something new. But this is, like I said, it's my favorite topic. I think it's interesting, and it's something that I've, being a runner and CrossFitter and stuff, like I've had to do, had to do my own nutrition myself. So